Watch this.
Taste the rainbow. Is it the catchphrase of a popular candy, or is it the manufactured fear of parents this scary season? Or both? Yes, fentanyl is a deadly problem in the Gem State. But is it worth all this Halloween hype? It's not the most recent federal holiday, but it has certainly garnered a lot of attention recently. Columbus Day, or Indigenous Peoples Day. Either way, we're getting a perspective from a member of the Nez Perce tribe hoping to cement the meaning of this day. Okay, so rumors or reports, they seem to be interchangeable these days when no one really knows the truth. Like when I was a kid, there was this seasonal scare of razor blades in apples or needles hidden in Halloween candy. Remember that? Did that ever really happen? Well, it's kind of like the basis of the term urban legend. Yet we kept hearing about those things happening, and they keep coming up, recycled every generation or so. Have you heard of the rainbow fentanyl yet? Well, fentanyl is a very dangerous synthetic drug, and it kills a lot of people for sure. But now that people are making the pills in rainbow colors, the DEA says drug dealers are doing this to intentionally target your kids. And now that has escalated to the fear of that rainbow ending up in a trick-or-treat bag alongside the other Taste the Rainbow candy. Is it legit, or is it, well, kind of a little less than a lie? Well, Andrew Bartline spoke with different police agencies and even some local hospitals today about this. And so the question is, are children actually getting their hands on this fentanyl, rainbow or otherwise?
Well, from what we've been able to get confirmed on the record today, to be blunt, no, they're not. Okay. Which might be a surprise to people considering ISP found rainbow fentanyl in our state more than a month ago. They haven't found any evidence to suggest this rainbow fentanyl is any different from the regular forms of fentanyl. It's just a different color. Now, it is a very dangerous and deadly drug, as Brian mentioned. It's very addictive, and small amounts can lead to an overdose and death. But the idea that colorful pills are a special novelty just to target your kids, there just isn't evidence for it.
I personally have not seen any intel or intelligence that would suggest that children were specifically targeted.
I mean, I haven't been seeing anyone coming in from this rainbow fentanyl, finding it at the park, any of those specific cases. I mean, we have had fentanyl overdoses in younger populations. I know that it's out there.
Boise police also says they haven't seen any evidence for rainbow fentanyl in schools or specifically targeting kids. So why is the drug form changing? Well, ISP doesn't know for sure. Maybe the people who make these drugs simply ran out of blue dye. But part of the reason they think could be that the people who make these drugs no longer have an incentive to make fentanyl look like a normal and real pill.
Initially, when fentanyl hit the West in particular, it was brought here in pill form. So pills that were pressed and mocked up to look like oxycodone 30 pills. And those were some iteration of blue. Sometimes it was light blue, dark blue, etc. And they were marketed as legitimate pharmaceuticals. Well, nobody believes that anymore, that these pills that are being sold on the street as Oxy 30s, nobody believes that they're actually Oxy 30s. Everybody understands that these are fentanyl pills. If they weren't prescribed by a doctor and purchased at a legitimate pharmacy, they're fentanyl pills.
I just think the best thing is to talk to your kids about being really aware. Don't pick up and eat anything off the ground if they're younger. Don't take anything from your friends and say, here, you got a headache, take some pain pills. Just making sure that your kids know where they're getting whatever it is they're going to eat or take, and just really a lot of education, because it's out there.
Now, you just heard Dr. Kroll at St. Alphonsus emphasize the importance of talking to your kids about fentanyl. She says younger people are overdosing on fentanyl, and Idaho is seeing more overdose deaths as a whole compared to last year. That also follows a national trend. So it is a big deal. But from the statements you hear from some police departments across the country saying, watch out in parks, there's rainbow fentanyl. The Adams County Sheriff's Office here in Idaho kind of had a similar post on Facebook last week. Just the evidence isn't there. And maybe it's happened somewhere. Maybe somebody got a razor blade in their candy somewhere, but this idea that it's widespread and this is an intentional target toward kids, we're just not seeing that in Idaho.
Yeah, just like the satanic scare in the 80s as well. And we're not trying to discourage you from checking your kids' Halloween candy, for sure. I mean, go at that. That's not what we're saying. It's just that this idea where all of a sudden it's becoming, this is for sure going to happen to you, or it is already happening to you. is one of those things we kind of want to nip in the bud. At least get some discussion about it.
Well, and you think, honestly, if you're a drug dealer, like our 11-year-olds going to be your best clients, like you just think logically about it,
Right.
does not make a lot of sense.
Right. So, all right. Well, thank you for clearing at least a good chunk of that up for us. Thank you, Andrew. Well, depending on what calendar you glance at today, it's either the federal holiday Columbus Day, a day to honor Christopher Columbus for discovering the New World, or it's Indigenous Peoples Day, which is how it is known in Idaho, at least since 2019, when Governor Brad Little signed a proclamation declaring the second Monday of October as Indigenous Peoples Day. It's a day to recognize this world wasn't new to the estimated 60 million to 100 million people already living here at the time Columbus thought he had found India. And I know calling Columbus Day Indigenous Peoples Day is a bit difficult for some, but it's not like we haven't changed the names of holidays over the years. Is it Washington's birthday, or is it President's Day? Is it Decoration Day, or is it Memorial Day? Is it Armistice Day, or is it Veterans Day? All of those changes have happened over the years. Indigenous Peoples Day is supposed to spark a conversation about the truth of history, the full truth of Indigenous people in America and in Idaho. And just so you know, there are 5 federally recognized tribes located within the state of Idaho. There's the Shoshone-Bannock tribe, once covered all of southern and eastern Idaho. It's now confined to the Fort Hall Reservation in Bannock County. The Shoshone-Paiute, which is a sliver, once a sliver of southwestern Idaho, now shares the Duck Valley Reservation with Nevada. The Coeur d'Alene tribe and the Panhandle, and the namesake of their reservation. The Kootenai tribe and the Kootenai Reservation, that's way up north by Bonners Ferry. And the Nez Perce, once covering 3 states, now just the Nez Perce Reservation in Lapwai. So those tribes once occupied the entire northwest of the United States, from the Great Basin to the coast. But as the Oneida Nation stand-up comedian Charlie Hill famously said, they had a little real estate problem. And speaking of Indigenous people in the media, Joe Paris spoke with Daniel Spalding, a radio broadcaster and member of the Nez Perce tribe. Spalding is set to deliver the keynote speech tonight at the University of Idaho to celebrate Indigenous Peoples Day.
Broadcasting from the heart of the Nimiipuu Nation on KIYE 88.7 FM Kamai.
This is Daniel Spalding, one of the voices of KIYE Radio, owned and operated by the Nez Perce tribe.
I believe we're the only tribal station out of Idaho, so we're pretty unique.
In recent years, Spalding has found incredible community support of his broadcast from the studio in Kamai, Idaho. Broadcasts are popular across the reservation and far into the Nez Perce Clearwater National Forest.
The little saying for the radio KIYE is the voice of the Nimiipuu. And so people have kind of coined that name on me because I'm doing a lot of the PSAs and a lot of the different announcements.
That responsibility is a privilege, Spalding says, and something he is passionate about. He works hard to draw attention to Indigenous people and their representation in media.
When it comes to media, especially in the area that I'm in, a lot of times our people in Indigenous people are not always painted in the right light. So sometimes there's a lot of untruthful, I guess, paintings of us. And so being able to be on our own radio station and highlight our own stories and be in control of our own narrative, it's something that I don't take lightly, and it's very important to me.
The federal holiday Columbus Day is recognized nationwide, and in Idaho, the day is also recognized as Indigenous People Day, a day that is supposed to recognize the truth of Native American history, stories and tales that are often whitewashed, forgotten, or ignored.
For me, days like today are important because you're acknowledging the truth in the history, and a lot of times, the truth is not always put in history books. They're not just, these stories like Pocahontas or Indian in the Cupboard, these kind of cheesy movies that aren't truthful. So I for me, it's what I've made very kind of almost my mission is just to highlight positive representation in media.
Spalding says recent efforts to change that are clear and impactful.
New TV shows finally, like there's Rutherford Falls on the streaming service Peacock, and then we have Reservation Dogs, which is on Hulu, and there's even Dark Wind. I mean, this year we're finally seeing a lot of representation in media that it's positive, and it's in a way where we're not just this thing of the past. Growing up, I didn't see a lot of representation in anything for me. So now being an adult and seeing it, it gives me a huge sense of pride, and also it makes me feel good knowing that my nieces and nephews now can grow up and see themselves in media in a positive way, whereas, you know, my siblings and I, or my cousins, like we all didn't have that.
The message to Indigenous people, especially young ones, is important, Spalding says. It's a message many generations missed, something people like Spalding are now trying to change.
Wow, these kids come from similar backgrounds, similar upbringings, and if they can do it, then I can do it too.
So coming up in less than an hour, Spalding's going to deliver the keynote speech to celebrate Indigenous Peoples Day at the University of Idaho's Bruce Pittman Center. It's at the Vandal Ballroom. 6 p.m. local time if you're up there, if you're looking to hear more from Spalding, some great insight. And he also says he'll be doing some question and answers after his presentation. Spalding is also the host of the show The Conversation on KIYE 88.7. And he recently interviewed Deb Haaland, who's the United States Secretary of the Interior. And Haaland is the first Native American to serve as a cabinet secretary in our country's history. I was just listening to a portion of the interview this afternoon, Brian, and some great work that Daniel and his coworkers are doing up there. But it also gives a window into a world that I think many people, especially down in the valley, probably don't even think about beyond a day like Indigenous Peoples Day. So it's a great day today to elaborate on that and remember who's part of our community.
Does Daniel broadcast in the Nimipu language as well?
He does, and if you check out the link we'll include in this story at KTVB.com, you can listen to that, and it's cool to listen to him to go between the native tongue and English. And I mean, again, it's a skill set and it's a window into a world that we don't see a lot of.
Especially when some of these languages are getting lost. And that's great that he can kind of, help keep that going, which is amazing.
It's got to be amazing, especially for older members, of the tribe to hear that over the radio in 2022, the native tongue. And again, as you mentioned, it is a language that is unfortunately going away. So stuff like what Daniel's doing is really important.
All right. Thank you very much, Joe. You know, nestled at the base of the Boise foothills lies another important reminder of this Indigenous Peoples Day to those who inhabited the Treasure Valley in Idaho long before us. There's a cluster of rock that protrudes from the side of the foothills. Is where Native Americans from the Shoshone, the Bannock, and the Paiute tribes gathered to bathe in geothermal hot springs. They also were there to lay tribal members to rest. According to the tribes of Duck Valley and Fort Hall Indian reservations, the valley was a peaceful gathering place where many traveling tribal nations paused to bathe in the healing hot water springs below the rocks. In 1990, a campaign was started to protect and preserve Castle or Eagle Rock from development. If you've been in that area around where you start the hike to Table Rock, that's where this is. Members of area tribes at the time described this space as a source of rejuvenation and spiritual healing. Well, that campaign was successful, and land was purchased from a developer and named Castle Rock Reserve. City of Boise also reintroduced 3,000 native plants as a gesture of the significance of healing and spirituality of that area. 2019 saw the renaming of the park and the Foothills Reserve in honor of the area's Indigenous people. Quarry View Park is now Eagle Rock Park. The reserve land is now named Chief Eagle Eye Reserve after the leader of a peaceful band of Weiser Shoshone who refused to move to a reservation in 1878 and lived quietly in the Idaho mountains. Speaking of refusing to move to a reservation, Chief Joseph once took the same stand in 1877, not wanting to be downsized to a smaller territory in Idaho. It's the reason he's so well known in Idaho. All right, this is a good time to remind you, this is your time to remind us how we're doing. Send us your clever comments and complaints about anything we've talked about today or something we should talk about another day. Or maybe you just want us to know about something else well known in Idaho. Text all of it to this number, 208-321-5614. Just make sure to include your name and the hashtag the 208. We mentioned clever, but also keep it clean and concise, because we want to be able to share yours at the end of the show. He was born in 1840 and born with the Nimupu name, which translates to thunder rolling in the mountains. But you likely know him as Chief Joseph. However, he wasn't the first Chief Joseph. That title belongs to his father, who was the chief of the Wallowa band of the Nez Perce. It's an offshoot of the main tribe who called the Camas Prairie home. Well, Joseph's father got the name Joseph by the Reverend Henry Spalding, a Presbyterian missionary who baptized the chief as Joseph. So there was Old Joseph and Young Joseph. And in the 1850s, there were treaties with the federal government to protect large sections of Idaho, Washington, and Oregon, including their Wallowa homeland. Treaties which, like too many before and after, went unenforced, with white settlers and miners settling on their land. In 1871, the senior Joseph died. But before he did, according to the biography of Junior Joseph, that is, he told his son, "When you go into council with the white man, always remember your country. Do not give it away," which is how Chief Joseph's legacy in Idaho will forever be linked to the Nez Perce War of 1877. Chief Joseph's band of the Nez Perce called the Wallowa region of northeast Oregon home. After the death of his father in the mid-1870s, there was a push by the federal government to push the Wallowa band to join the rest of the Nez Perce on a smaller reservation near Lapwai, Idaho. Joseph refused, recalling the promise he made to his father. But by the spring of 1877, the requests made by the military became non-negotiable. General Otis Oliver Howard told Chief Joseph and the other Nez Perce chiefs they had 30 days to move their people to Idaho, or they would be moved by force. So it was decided the only way to avoid an all-out war was to leave their country. But instead of stopping in Lapwai, Chief Joseph led some 800 Nez Perce, mostly women and children, and thousands of their animals, through the Lolo Pass, over the Bitterroot Mountains, and into Montana, hoping to hide out in buffalo country. As for avoiding violence, well, that was impossible, as the Nez Perce were hounded by the Army, and battles ensued in several spots along the way. It was a retreat more than 1,000 miles long, and commemorated by riders in an annual pilgrimage, as told by KTVB's Exploring Idaho in 1994.
We're talking about 900 people and 1,000 horses, and they were running from the Army all those months that they fought and rode and fought and rode.
During the war, Joseph and several other Nez Perce chiefs led their people on the long and difficult trek into Montana. They fought and eluded several different armies along the way and nearly escaped into Canada before surrendering just 40 miles from the border.
In a symbolic gesture of surrender, Chief Joseph handed over his rifle to Army generals on October 5, 1877, saying, "It is cold and we have no blankets. The little children are freezing to death. I want to have time to look for my children and see how many I can find. Maybe I shall find them among the dead. I am tired, my heart is sick and sad. From where the sun now stands, I will fight no more forever." Well, Chief Joseph surrendered with the promise that he and his people would be transported back to that reservation in Idaho. It was another promise not kept. Instead, the 400 ailing and wounded Nez Perce that remained with the group were sent to Indian Territory in Oklahoma. And it wasn't until 1885 when Chief Joseph and his people were allowed back to the Northwest. He and about 150 others were sent to the Colville Reservation in Washington. The rest were sent to Lapwai.
The colors of fall are really becoming more and more beautiful every day that goes by, but our temperatures are not really feeling too much like fall, at least not in the afternoons. We still get sort of that crisp, cool morning because of the longer nighttime hours, but into the afternoon, this afternoon, as well as through the weekend, temperatures about 10 degrees above seasonal averages, though nowhere near the record for this day of 90 degrees that was set back in 2015. So it can get quite warm in October. It's also not rare for October to be a dry month, and that certainly is what it's shaping up to be this October. And as we take a look at that longer range forecast, so taking this out 6 to 10 days all the way through the 20th of October, it looks very, very likely that we will continue to see above average temperatures, at least a 70% chance for our region, perhaps even 80% chance of above average temperatures continuing, with this pattern also keeping things dry. A high pressure ridge expected to rebuild over the region after it's just a touch cooler tomorrow, and we will continue to wait for rain. Also, may have noticed some haze and some smoke through the region today. That is mainly due to a prescribed burn up in the Payette National Forest, but under this northwesterly flow aloft, we are getting some of that high level smoke that's coming in from the Pacific Northwest for fires that are still active through Washington, Western Oregon as well. You can see the air quality in the orange and red there, much worse than where it is here, but we are seeing air quality, generally speaking, in the green or at the bottom of the yellow or moderate category for most of southern Idaho, including the west central mountains. So we'll keep that air quality index check for you, again, at the bottom of the scale here. And if anything changes, of course, we'll update you. Quick little front to sweep through to our northern zones tonight. It will bring about the winds of change tomorrow, but temperatures just a touch cooler than today. And then it gets warm once again. Here's a look at the 7-day forecast, which, of course, you can always find at KTVB.com.
All right, final minute or so of the show today. Let's take a look at some of the comments you sent in. A lot of people commenting about our fentanyl story and Indigenous Peoples Day. Let's start with this one. Regardless of how one feels about Indigenous Peoples Day, Columbus deserves no honor. He didn't discover anything. He just stumbled on a Caribbean island, says Jack in Boise. That's true. Call it the West Indies. Thank you for reporting the truth on the rainbow fentanyl. The false flag stories take away from the real serious issues of fentanyl, says Scott. That's a good point. And thank you very much for giving us the compliment there. Currently a political ad using this particular fentanyl scare tactic as a way to reach voters, says Cheryl. Just misinformation by our elected official. We've seen it as well. Old Joseph tore up his Bible in response to the broken treaty. Darlene Dyer says, she's from Haley, excuse me, and that is true. I read that story as well. He was so just angry at, well, basically the white man and his lack of word. He tore up his Bible that was given to him by Reverend Spalding. He became baptized, became a Christian, and then lost faith in that and said, you know what, enough of this. I trust none of this, any of it. And that's why he told his son, remember your country, do not give it away. Thank you for sending that in. Thank you for discussing Indigenous Peoples Day and some people and places that are part of our Idaho history. I am proud that our governor has renamed this day in Idaho to show respect to the original inhabitants, said Sandy. This last one here, thank you all for spreading awareness and for the hours you all put into today's broadcast. It is amazing to finally see Indigenous people getting their long overdue recognition. Thank you, says Jay from Ontario. Well, thanks from the 504, 540 to the 208. I think that's how it works. We'll see you tomorrow.